better just go over here this time.
Sam Bosteff, University of Florida. I'm fascinated with this idea of the president's inherent authority, and I'm just wondering what are the arguments that are being made for the source of it? Inherent by reason of what? Is it sort of Aristotelian essence like the chair-innocent chair, or is it divine right of kings, the l'état c'est moi, or is it something else? The consent of the governed, that if we don't resist, that we've given it to him?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I think your question is very well taken because their reasoning is very vague. Some people go back to the Curtis-Wright decision in the 30s of the Supreme Court that it was actually a dictum which didn't have the force of law, which said that the president is the sole organ of foreign policy for the United States, which is absolutely ludicrous, as I mentioned in my talk, with all the powers. So they hold the national security high, and this commander-in-chief, they think it does mean the commander-in-chief of the country. And the Supreme Court has said that in the Truman Steele case, said that it's the armed forces. But of course, the reasoning is very vague, and no one seems to challenge it. No one seems to get out. If you talk to any constitutional scholar, they'll be going, well, that it not only violates, it violates the spirit of the 10th Amendment and lots of other, the spirit of a lot of other American values to just have undefined powers for a leader of a country. And of course, I don't have to tell anybody in this room that, but the legal rationale, you're right, usually there's some rationale when policy, even bad policies are made, and sometimes it's they're being demagogues when they do it. But in this case, they really just throw out this commander-in-chief thing. We're the commander-in-chief. They rely on the words itself. The founders maybe should have used a different title, but I don't know how you can get any more specific. The commander-in-chief is like a battlefield commander, right? So, but there is no clear rationale for it. Okay, go. I think this might have to be the last question. Okay. We can't hear you. I don't know if the microphone's on. Well, we do have a lot of arrogance in foreign policy, and you do see it because we regard, I should say the U.S. government regards itself as a superpower. And you see this at international meetings and conferences, which I attend sometimes. Even U.S. academics that go to academic conferences throw their weight around because everyone wants to know what's happening in the imperial capital. And an example of U.S. arrogance, a couple of weeks ago, and this happens from time to time, the Chinese will increase their defense budget. And the Chinese are expanding their economy, and they want a greater sphere of influence around their country, as any great power throughout history has done. And I'm not saying, I don't know what the Chinese intentions are. I don't know if we can ascertain those yet, but the administration says, well, these increases in your defense budget seem to be more than your defense, than you should have for your defense. And I'm just going, our expenditures are what the rest of the world spends combined on defense. We have tentacles everywhere, alliances everywhere, bases everywhere. And so, to us to lecture the Chinese budget is probably 20% of our defense budget. And we're lecturing them on the fact that their budget seems to exceed what's necessary for defense. So I think we have a lot of arrogance in foreign policy, and it would be helpful if we took the other country's perspective once in a while, even if they have autocratic leaders. Autocratic leaders do head countries, and those countries do have security concerns, and some of them are legitimate. So we don't like their autocratic leaders, and we don't have to like their autocratic leaders, and we don't even have to say we like their autocratic leaders, but we really should take their perspective into account once in a while. Thank you.